several generations hence, because generations come more quickly in the internet age, apparently. But I have to keep reminding people, hey, there's people besides the people you've been told are good. Right? I spend a lot of my time doing that, reminding people that, hey, you don't have to obsess over the same 30 players, 40 players, 50 players. There's a bunch of really good players all over the place that you're missing out on by obsessing over the same ones that everyone's already told you are good. And some of them aren't as good as you've been told, but whatever. So I spend probably more time than I should, James, trying to open people's eyes to the many other hundreds of football players, thousands of football players, besides the same, what I call usual suspects that everyone seems to want to keep re-examining.
I find myself doing that on the political stage, but
yes,
right, where facts are not facts, and
yes,
the sky is green and not blue, and
different. Oh yeah, no, I 100% get it. I get it 100%.
But I'm waiting for Mike to get on here, and while we get into the fantasy questions, I know that there are some things that a lot of our viewers, as well as others, are asking themselves when you guys talk about dynasty leagues.
Sure.
And a lot of us, I mean, we do the standard league and the keeper leagues, and you have these 4 or 5 guys, but can you kind of tell us what is the premise or the principle behind a dynasty league?
Sure. So they are similar but not the same. So all, just like if you go into the deep dark jungle, right, and you see a tiger, all tigers are cats, not all cats are tigers. So all dynasty leagues are keeper leagues. Any league where you don't start over each time, each year, each season, with everybody being.
Let's welcome Mike.
Mike there we go. Perfectly timed.
How you gentlemen doing?
How you doing this grand Saturday? I see the sun is out here. So I'm assuming that you guys here, like weather is pretty good back there today.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of clouds behind Bill either, so I'm assuming but Mike, what we were getting into, and you and Bill talk about it all the time, but I know a lot of our fans, and I don't play in the Dynasty League. I've seen a couple of sites where they are, but between you and Bill, can you kind of give us the feel of what a dynasty league is? I mean, some of us playing keeper leagues and some the standard league sports, ESPN and some of the others, Flea Flicker. I mean, there are a few where you have some keeper leagues, but so why don't you guys kind of get into what these dynasty leagues are and how they're set up, what the general premise is,
Sure. I don't know what Bill said, but I'm sure it's correct.
I had just begun answering, so I just said I made an analogy where I said, all tigers are cats, but all cats are tigers. Just sort of explain, that while all dynasty, I was going to get into the details, but you are obviously the person we were hoping would answer the question. So please proceed.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, I think you're on the right track there for sure. It's I guess the main difference between is how many players are okay. So for keeper leagues, usually keep 1, maybe two players, and that usually costs you.
You can keep as many as 4 and so.
Okay. So you keep, let's just say, a maximum of 4. And that usually costs you like a round, or like if I drafted T. Higgins in round 7 and I wanted to keep him, depending on the rules, some rules state that you give up your 7th round choice. Some rules state like you give up your 6th round choice. So it all depends. It all varies. But with the dynasty, it's you once you draft these players, they're under your roster as long as you want them to be, whether until it's you trade them or you cut them. Either way, they remain on your roster at all times.
Right. I've even played in some dynasty leagues where instead of giving up, or I guess you have the option of instead of giving up a draft pick, you can essentially pay against your salary cap. So you have a pool of $1,000 or whatever number of dollars, and a player who's in this slot costs you 250 of it, or a player in this slot costs you 100, a player in this slot costs you 500, and you can do that instead of, in lieu of giving up a draft. There's so many different ways, to do it.
Sure.
And I've even played in dynasty leagues where you can draft players out of the college draft, right? Out of college, who are leaving college, coming into the NFL. So those are the most fun for me because I spend so much time watching college football. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I play in some pure college drafts where they are either keeper or dynasty. And, so you watch with great interest if this redshirt sophomore or junior that you have invested a high round draft pick in will come back next year, right? Because you are sort of taking this person thinking you get 2 years out of them, and some of them come out early. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do both keeper and dynasty. And Mike hit it on the head. You're not starting all over in keeper leagues, but you're starting largely over in keeper leagues. You might choose to keep your quarterback, if you really like your quarterback. You're hoping to keep your running back. You're hoping that you got Ezekiel Elliott a few years ago. You're hoping you got McCaffrey a couple of years ago, Saquon a couple of years ago, the guy that you build essentially around. Sometimes that may be the only guy you keep, depending on how you performed the previous year. But you keep that guy because somebody that good is not likely to be in next year's draft. You're unlikely to find another Saquon Barkley. You're unlikely to find – my thing is wide receivers. Everyone talks about running backs. And, of course, don't get me wrong, running backs are super important. But they are also fairly easily replaced with somebody who's maybe not quite as good but is close. The James Robinson career arc is perfect, a perfect example of how you can get pretty close to equal or 87.5% basically of the same production out of a guy that most people hadn't heard of when he entered the NFL, as opposed to guys with names like Saquon Barkley and McCaffrey and all these other guys that are super prized picks. And obviously that's to some extent the same with receivers, but not quite. To me, there's a bigger drop between elite, really good, and then meh receivers to me. Mm-hmm. And you're the expert, but that's been my experience, that I've done best when I loaded up on really good receivers than when I've loaded up on really good running backs.
I think it depends on – I think every person has their I don't know about weakness, but definitely strengths in positions, and usually nail that position pretty well. Whether it's tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, they just have an inkling of knowing who to draft, when to draft them, and they always perform to the large part. None of us are perfect, but and it sounds like wide receivers is sort of your sweet spot.
But see, okay, now I know you guys play Dynasty, but as a guy that just plays usually, keeper leagues and standard leagues, when I've had a choice between keeping Eckler or Mike Williams, I've kept Mike Williams.
Well, Mike Williams is elite. That's an easy one too.
Because he's not elite on that team. On that team, as a football player, you have Kareem Allen as the primary wide receiver, and he is the primary wide receiver as far as yards, but as far as points and consistency of points, that's why I've kept Mike Williams.
Sure. Yeah, well, think about Keenan Allen, and we all enjoy watching him play, but he's essentially a glorified possession receiver.
Right.
a big play for Keenan Allen is 22 yards. Woo! You know, way to go. You know, right? Keenan gets you 22 yards. You're like, woo! He can get touchdowns, but he's mostly a first down machine. But you don't get points for him mostly.
But in a fantasy league draft, Keenan Allen is at least 20 positions ahead of Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Right. Depends drafting with, but yes.
It's a difficult situation. Do you keep, someone that is ranked, wide receiver, especially coming into this year, a wide receiver, 55, 60, or do you keep someone that Austin Eckler, who is going to be good, but you have to give up your, first or second round draft choice or whatever that early. So the payoff is bigger if you keep Mike Williams and he does what he's doing now, right? Comparable to Austin Eckler. So, but if you let Austin Eckler go and Mike Williams is another dud again, then you've lost out on a chance of keeping Austin Eckler. So it's one of those situations where you really have to weigh the pros and cons and decide on what's better or best for your team.
So essentially, you spoke about cutting guys. When you cut a guy in Dynasty, do you get this? Is he cut and out on waivers, or can you possibly get him back at another time? Or, I mean, are you telling us that a Dynasty is more like actually being an owner rather than, I guess, fantasy sport? I guess the others you would call a participant, right?
Yeah, say that question one more time for me, please.
In a dynasty league,
right?
You're more in a situation of being an owner, where you have to move these pieces around without very little. Well, no, with a lot of consequence, because you're keeping this team from year to year. Whereas with the fantasy owner, I mean, you that year and you're done. I mean, basically you start over each year.
Right.
So how do you define the position of? I mean, in a dynasty league, are you an owner as compared to in a fantasy league a participant?
I think it's definitely more of an ownership. That was sort of like the whole idea between distancing itself from redraft and dynasty, was that fantasy football owners or managers wanted to say, we want to get fantasy football as close to the NFL as possible.
Right.
So how do you do that? Well, one of the things you need to do is keep the players, and that's just how it works with the NFL. You keep a certain set of players. Business is business, but you do keep the core as long as possible. So let's do that. Let's keep the core or most of these players as possible. So I think it's definitely more of an ownership role in dynasty leagues than it is sort of a participant, because once you're with redraft and your season's done, then 95%, unless you're in a keeper league, 100% players go back to the pool, and you do it all over again. So I think it's definitely more of an ownership role. You're trading more because if you're stuck with a bad team year after year, you need to do something to make that team better. So you're going to trade players more, or you're going to trade for draft picks, or you're going to be more active than a redraft. Redraft, as you said, okay, I have these players for this year. Well, it's a bad year. Next year will be better. I don't really have to trade. So it's a lot more incorporative of what a general manager has to do in a real football league. That's more closely related to the dynasty situation.
Yeah. So one year, a few years ago, when I really wanted to punish myself, and I guess I've had too much time and energy. I no longer have that situation. I no longer have that problem. I decided to go into a 32 team dynasty league where you were drafting players out of college. You had a salary cap. It was like, once again, as you said, as close to the real thing as possible. It was insanity, and it was so difficult. And
I can imagine.
I was getting up at sometimes at like 3-something in the morning to to work the waiver wire. I mean, it was. Hats off to people who actually run NFL football teams. It is a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is so much work. And yeah, if you've got a spate of injuries at one position, it's like, oh God, right? And you're making deals, and everyone knows they have you over a barrel, because they know your injury situation. And they're like, oh well, if you give me your first rounder next year, and this and that, the other thing, it's like, so. It all depends on how deeply you want to invest, sometimes monetarily, sometimes your time, your sanity, into how you play fantasy football. Most people just want to have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's people who a little mix. They want to have some fun and they want to suffer a little bit. And then you have the real sickos, right? And I've been one of them, who just want to suffer. They just want to put themselves through it. They want to have the most challenging and difficult fantasy football experience possible. And you come away, like I said, the one thing you come away with is, man, running a football team is so much harder than people think.
Well, I can tell you about torturing yourself, because the second year that I was in fantasy football, just because I wanted to get, kind of get my name out there, and I was starting the sports crib and things like that, I joined 100 fantasy football team leagues.
Good God.
Jesus, that's more than I have.
That's more than everybody.
I mean, and you have to consider, I mean, 25, of course, come off of ESPN. I think Flea Flicker allows each of at that time you had Fox Sports, they allowed you 5. I mean, it was various all the way down the line, like Flea Flicker, the whole
CBS.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all of them, and surprisingly, I felt very good. I came out with a 68% winning
nice
percentage. So but
very good.
But I would never, ever, But like I said, the purpose was, for me to meet people and things like that, and for but that was talk about agonizing, and then you wake up on Sunday morning and on 30 of your teams this guy is injured, but getting back on the subject here, guys. Let's see, what are we talking about here? Oh, I think I had McCaffrey.
Yep.
He's out again.
Yep.
And we've kind of talked about this before, but the last time we talked about it, Chuba performed. Now, this is, I think, week before that. Was it last week or the week after that where he didn't perform too well? In the Panthers' loss, I believe, right?
So I think it was 2 weeks ago he came in for Christian McCaffrey, because that's when McCaffrey pulled his hamstring. And he did, I believe he did okay. He wasn't too bad.
Right, the first week.
And then last week he wasn't all that, if I remember right.
He was like he was like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
So that's why I was talking about his inconsistency. Should you pick him up, if he's out there this week? Because most people is, I know I, for one, was thinking that, hey, McCaffrey, I got him on IR. He's going to be back. That's what they said. Well, was it Wednesday? He was back. And then Friday, he's out. So, once again, now I'm stuck, getting a replacement. And Chuba's out there because most people cut him after last week. So do you pick up Chuba because of his inconsistency, or do you look elsewhere?
I think it depends on what you want out of Chuba Hubbard.
Right.
If a couple things. One, if you're a McCaffrey manager, then I would definitely go with let me ask you, this is sort of off topic because I've been doing this for like 30 years and this always this term is always in my head, but now that through Twitter and stuff, they're saying not to use this term, and I don't want to offend any of you guys, but the term owner is sort of being like it's not a word to use. So if I say it subconsciously, I don't mean to offend anybody.
No,
So
I think I'm the oldest person in the room. And I think I used owner just quite a bit.
Not 5 minutes ago. Yeah, not even 5 minutes ago. So we're okay.
Okay, cool. Because I'm trying to change that because I've heard that it's not a correct term to use, but
it's a generational thing.
Come on Monday night on my political thing, and we can hash a lot of this out.
I would love to do that. That'd be great.
Hey man, I'll send you an invitation after the show.
Okay, cool. That would be awesome.
All right.
So as owner manager, with Chuba Hubbard, it's if you with McCaffrey. Yes, you definitely want to connect those two. McCaffrey probably could have gone this week, but they really want to preserve his health. So they're like, no, you could kind of further damage this hamstring. So we really want you to be safe. We're 3-1. We're in a good spot. Let's just sort of give you another week, and you'll take it off next week. So I fully believe he's going to play next week. I just so if you want to get Chuba Hubbard in for this week, absolutely go for it because the Eagles are really bad against the run. But for a long term, no, I wouldn't do it unless you want to connect Chuba Hubbard with McCaffrey.
That's just what I was going to ask Bill. I was going to ask Bill: are they handcuffed?
I'm not one of those people that naturally buys into the handcuff theory. I always look at best available at the position, based on how good is the team at running the football. Sometimes the team is good at running the football. It's not just the player, and some teams are just bad at running the football. Right? So I wouldn't take Miles Sanders back up. Right? They struggle to run the football no matter what. Certain teams struggle to run the football no matter who's you're trotting out there. Just because some guys get a certain amount of volume and they're going to score a certain amount, it's worth throwing them out there. But I'm always scared about grabbing running backs just because they're the guy who starts ahead of them is injury prone, right? Mm-hmm. Alexander Madison makes sense because the Vikings are good at running the football. They have a legitimately good running game. And so whoever gets the ball, they might not give you exactly what Dalvin Cook would have given you, but they're going to give you 13, 14, 15 points, could very likely just because they have a solid running attack. That's how I decide if I'm going to, who I'm going to have as my backup running backs, as opposed to saying, oh, well, now Pollard makes sense because I think the Cowboys, though they haven't said it, are transitioning, frankly, eventually to Pollard anyway. I think that Zeke is nearing the end of his time as the starter in Dallas. Probably, obviously, this year he's still safe, and maybe next year. But if I remember the way his deal is structured, they can get out from under him at the end of next year. And I'm thinking that the snaps already have started to shift. You're keeping track of the snap count. Pollard's getting, something like 10-ish, I think, somewhere around there. Between 6 and 11, I think, is where he's 6 and 12, something like that, which is an uptick from last year. And I'm, once again, assuming there'll be more of an uptick as the season goes along. And they'll say it's because they want to preserve Zeke for a playoff run, and that's probably part of it. but I'm pretty sure they're looking at what they're paying these two dudes and what they're getting out of them and thinking, yeah, we'd rather have the younger, cheaper guy, right?
Sure.
Which once again brings back why you have to be careful about if you're going to choose to pay a running back a second contract anyway. But that's football talk. When I'm trying to find my emergency, my stopgap, my whatever running backs, I look for these things. Are they capable of making a big play? If the blocking is decent, not amazing, can they break a tackle or juke somebody and turn on that second or third gear and run away from the defense, right? Now, that's one thing I will say about Chuba Hubbard. He's one of the faster running backs amongst the backup running back class group. So there's that. There's a handful of guys. That's why I still kind of sort of hold out hope for a guy like Lindsey, right? Who is available on waivers in a lot of leagues.
A whole lot of leagues.
I still hold out hope for him because even though he's a smaller running back, he actually can break tackles, and he's one of the faster running backs in the whole league. He's a 4.43 guy. So he can turn the corner and go. But teams seem to be falling out of love with him. So he's an emergency.
And you explained why, because that was one of the questions on Thursday night's podcast when I was talking about Keenan Drake and Philip Lindsay and the running back from Tampa Bay, Ronald Jones.
Jones, yeah. Well, Ronald Jones' thing is very simply fumbling. You know, coaches are not fans of fumblers. Like that's.
Yeah,
they'll give up explosiveness. They'll give up a lot of things for a guy that doesn't fumble, as you've seen prove it, because he's better at almost everything except holding onto the football than Fournette.
Right.
Right? Like the check marks, if you're going down the list of qualities, elusiveness. Right? You go down the list, right? Until you get to fumbling the football, right? Leonard Fournette doesn't fumble.
Ball security.
All the other check marks matter less than that check mark to NFL head coaches. If you wanted to object lesson in that, Tampa Bay is a perfect. And I picked up for nothing off waivers in a lot of leagues Leonard Fournette because I saw this coming.
Yeah, of course. We watched it Thursday night, thanks to Fox Sports. I'm so glad. Mike, how glad are you, and to see Thursday Night Football on Fox, when you look at the difference between the graphics, the speed of the game, the announce, everything over the NFL Network on Thursday night? Or is it just me?
I don't tend to listen to announcers. I kind of just put it on mute. But as far as what's going on, I think the game was really good. So if Fox picked that game, they sure picked it correctly.
Yeah, I think the next four, I forget how many. I don't know how many it is, but I know Fox does have a contract for the next.
So that explains why Eli and Peyton weren't.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hey, if there's one thing that I do like about Fox, it's Fox Sports. Now, me and that other part of Fox, we have a lot of problems.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, but me and Fox Sports, it's kind of like the stepsister. It's like, but anyway.
As long as it has sports in the title, we're good. But anything other than that, forget about it.
Yeah. Speaking of the Thursday night game, though, if anybody was watching, you saw Russell Wilson's middle finger, and I was, saying that, I've seen a lot of miracles with duct tape, but I was waiting for him to bring it out, and it never got out there. But anyway, when you look at the the seriousness of the injury. Some are saying 4 to 8 weeks, and some are saying 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to kind of go in the middle and say 6 to 8 weeks. But knowing Russ, he might be out there in 4 weeks. Who knows? Right. But now, once again, it comes, to the backup, because here's a thing where you're not handcuffed to another quarterback. I don't think in any, in any league, I don't think you pick up a quarterback.
I mean, there are some 2 QB leagues, but even in a 2 QB league, I'm guessing you didn't pick Geno.
No, I mean,
right, exactly.
I roll with 2 quarterbacks every year. But my other quarterback is usually, like he's decent. I mean, I didn't pick Russell Wilson and then pick Geno as his backup. I'll put it like that. So I guess it comes down to the Chuba, and then of course you looked at him on Thursday night, and for about 3 or 4 plays he looked outstanding. And then Geno came.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even that was really mostly the receiver. The receiver fell down. I mean, I don't know how much you can really blame the quarterback. He's assuming the receiver is going to not be on the ground in that situation.
But I mean, still, even after that, how many first downs did he have after that?
None.
Yeah. Okay. I think I make my case. But so here's another one. Do I pick up Geno for these next 6 to 8 weeks, knowing what's on the waiver wire? Because
as I said, tell me what's available.
Well, not. I know on a lot of regular leagues, you have Baker Mayfield available. I think in some, you might even have Teddy Bridgewater available, depending upon how deep your league is and whether, and if you're in,
I'll give you a name.
12
Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's available, and you need to piece it together for 3 or 4 weeks.
There you go. I mean, like I said, so do you go to Geno Smith, or do you take Sam Darnold? Do you take do you go elsewhere?
I mean, there are leagues where Derek Carr is available. Now, why, I do not know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there you go. There you go. I mean, are you? Here's a good question. If you already have, say, someone on IR, relatively decent. I'm trying to think of in most cases the Denver wide receiver. What's his name?
You mean Hamler?
No, the
Sutton?
Judy?
Hold on, I can go to one of my fantasy leagues. I'll tell you.
Sutton's actually healthy for one.
Oh, that's for IR. So it's probably either Judy or
Judy.
Yeah,
Judy,
I said Judy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So if you have Judy already on IR, and Russell Wilson is your starting quarterback, do you put him on IR and submit Judy to waivers? What would be your situation?
I'm gonna defer to Mike, but then I'm gonna say the things I normally say when I'm asked those questions. But yeah, Mike, what would you do in that situation?
I think it depends on. Well, if you're looking at Geno Smith, you're probably in a 2 quarterback league. Because if you're looking at Geno Smith in a 1 quarterback league, you're definitely doing it wrong.
Or you're in like in a 32 team league.
Or a 32 team, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well,
he might be your starting quarterback anyway, right?
Or right, yeah. You have 3 other quarterbacks that are injured. It's. I would not want to give Judy up for Geno Smith unless you're absolutely in a dire situation where you have 0 quarterbacks. It's just one of those things where you should, like Bill was saying, and James too. You've already drafted two quarterbacks.
Let me give you a good example. Okay, you have Jimmy G as your backup, and you have Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback.
Okay, so
And-
basically both are out.
Right, and
Right.
you got Judy on IR.
Right. Oh,
Well, I mean,
yeah, you have to.
right. I mean, if I'm assuming you've already dropped Garoppolo, right? I mean, in this scenario, you've already dropped Garoppolo, I'm assuming.
Well, Garoppolo right now is your second quarterback. He's sitting on your bench. Okay,
Right. But you're dropping him to pick up a better quarterback, right? And that's what's happening.
Well, right. So that's what I'm saying. So right now, you have to drop him because Russell Wilson's hurt. You're not going to give up Russell Wilson.
No.
You're not going to give up Jimmy. You're not going to give up Judy. So you have to drop him. So are you dropping Jimmy G?
Yes.
For Geno Smith? Wait a minute now. Get it off.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are you dropping Jimmy G for Geno Smith? Or Baker Mayfield or
Oh yeah, I mean that's
whoever else, or whoever else is available.
Yeah, right. Assuming that you are not, like I said, in a 32-team league, a 16-team 2 QB league, or some weird math where all the quarterbacks are gone.
Right.
Someone hopefully like I said, if Baker Mayfield, yes. Darnold's still available in something. Like I said, I've even seen a few leagues where inexplicably Derek Carr is available. Now that's probably what happened, but if he is, why are we still talking, right? But there's usually lots of good quarterbacks. That's why quarterbacks taken fairly late in drafts.
If you got Derek Carr available, I'm pretty sure that Jimmy G is not on your roster.
Yes, well, right.
Yeah.
You would hope so.
Yeah, you would hope, right. Now, there are some people who are like 49ers fans, whatever it is, and they'll do stuff. My emotions never come into when I'm playing fantasy, but I know some people are different.
Yeah, I've seen people in fantasy leagues that only draft players from a certain team. Yeah, I've seen that too. But Mike, you're our expert. What's the deal here? What's going on?
Well, I think the first thing to do is look at what's available out on the waiver wire. Geno Smith shouldn't be a high priority unless there's nothing there. Like you're looking at the third string quarterback for the Bears or that kind of thing, where there is just like nothing there and only Geno Smith is there. Then you're going to want to make that move. Other than that, then it doesn't matter because there's no one else out there. So you're pretty much in a bad situation because there's no quarterbacks on the waiver wire, and B, your quarterbacks are the ones that you have are out. So you're really not going to be starting a quarterback unless you make a trade. Then maybe you could do something to that effect. So that would be my next move, would see, okay, can I make a trade? Can I, take a hit, make somewhat of a bad trade where I'm losing slightly, but I'm still getting a quarterback, so I'm not losing this entire season out of, and then if not, then I'll get a great draft slot. So that's the last thing.
I'll just give you a few that's available quarterbacks. Okay. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston. Mac Jones is also available.
Yeah, it's Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, yeah.
Taylor Heineke, of course.
I like Heineke too. I don't like him over Darnold, but I like Heineke quite a bit.
And of course, my favorite quarterback, Big Ben, is still out there. And,
yes, as he ought to be. He ought to remain available. He ought to remain.
He is so bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, I can say if the only two that are left are Geno Smith and Big Ben, I would lean toward Big Ben. Yeah, I'm just yeah.
So that's where we are now, huh?
Yeah,
You're looking at Geno Smith. You're looking at Ben Roethlisberger. You're not quite sure what to do. You're not. There was ever a more fitting epitaph for the career of Ben Roethlisberger. That may be it. Not sure what to do here.
Mike, give us some of your best and your worst matchups for fantasy owners this week.
Oh, that's a good one. Let's see.
The first one that I'm really thinking of here is the wide receivers from Buffalo against the Kansas City defense. I'm talking about
that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Chiefs are pretty good against the pass. So, but it's one of those situations where you're not going to bench Stephon Diggs anyways, or Cole Beasley. As much as I'd love to see Cole Beasley leave the league.
But Emmanuel Sanders is
Emmanuel Sanders is doing really well.
You know,
yes,
I mean,
he is.
That's another person I picked up off waivers because I had an injury at wide receiver, and I'm like, yes.
But then again, here you go. I've seen a lot of leagues, especially on ESPN, where you have both of them available. You have Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders both available. So, and they're both giving you somewhere between 15 points, 12 and 15 points each, Mike?
Yeah, I think Manny Sanders is definitely outperforming Cole Beasley, but it's not to an extreme situation. As I'm looking at it now, Beasley has more receptions, 25, but less yards, 210, just because he runs shorter routes. But Emmanuel Sanders has more yards and more touchdowns.
Yeah. But
right.
like
he's a more explosive player.
Yeah.
So coming out of SMU, had a big old chip on his shoulder. He was at the East-West Shrine game, and he kept talking about I should be at the Senior Bowl. He was pissed. He was pissed where he got drafted. He's had a chip on his shoulder his entire career.
Who, Sanders?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I got to know him a little bit when he was coming out of SMU.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Something that he and Beasley have in common. In fact, now I think about it, right?
Yeah, tell me more about that. What do you mean in common?
I think they don't. Well, both of them were kind of felt under-evaluated, or whatever term you want to use.
Gotcha. Sure.
And they share the same alma mater, right? Didn't they both go to SMU?
That is possible. I could tell you in 2 seconds. Yep.
Yeah, right. They share the alma mater too. Yep.
So what other matchups should we be looking at here, Mike? Best and worst.
Definitely the.
Why don't you give us your worst matchups first? Like who do you think are going to be the worst matchups in fantasy football this week?
I think the Buccaneers and Dolphins. The Dolphins is definitely one of the worst matchups. Not only do you have Leonard Fournette throwing the ball, but the running game has gone invisible for the Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
Wide receivers. I mean, Buccaneers are weaker in the secondary than they were last year, but I think it's just going to be one of those games where they're just going to get trashed. So that's going to be a really bad matchup for them. Cleveland and I think it's going to be an interesting situation. I don't know if it's a bad matchup just because the Chargers are so explosively offensively, so that might not be so much. I
would, now when you talk about that Chargers defense against the run, and you're talking about, that secondary, it ain't too shabby for the Chargers either.
Yeah, they're really good. So the Browns itself, I should probably flip that. The Browns, but you're still going to play Chubb, but Baker Mayfield, another just atrocious game. I don't know. This guy's playing worse than he did his second season in the NFL. I'm like, I don't even know what Mayfield's doing out there.
What about let's see, I'm looking here. What about this New England Houston match?
That's a good one too. You definitely want to stay away from Houston. That Patriots defense, especially because Davis Mills is a rookie quarterback, and we all know how much is going to just destroy that situation. Belichick's going to be, I think Bill Belichick's salivating like they just put, a big old steak in front of him on a plate. And so, yeah, you avoid all Texans.
Green Bay and Cincinnati.
That one, you're probably not going to want the running game anyways, just because Joe Mixon is out and Samaje Perine is the guy. And, you don't really put a lot of faith in that. And you're going to still start the 3 wide receivers, and then the Packers should just pretty much run over them. It should be an explosive game, but you're definitely avoiding the running back situation in Cincinnati.
Let's see some of the best matchups here. I already went over that one. Wow, it's kind of shabby this week. Maybe I have to go back to the worst. Well, okay. I guess we are going to have to go back to the worst. The Giants at Dallas.
Yeah, that Dallas defense is really good. I mean, I think outside of Saquon Barkley, everybody else you just might as well bench.
Washington and New Orleans.
I wish I knew what was going on with the Washington defense, because that defense is good. I don't know what happened.
You and Ron Rivera.
Yeah, Rivera's scratching his head too.
I am too, because I picked them, for my defense, and I'm like, I should be able to carry these guys all the way until last week. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people had them high as a high pick, and they haven't. Me too. Going into the season, I'm like, look out for that Redskins defense, or not Redskins, Washington football team's defense. That team is just insane, and it's not been that way. But the offense of the Saints isn't all that good either. Really, outside of Alvin Kamara, that offense has done nothing. So this might be a good get-right game for Washington football team.
But so who would you start for the Washington football team?
You definitely want to start McLaurin. I like Taylor Heineke. I don't know what's going on with Antonio Gibson.
I told you Heineke is on the bench. I mean, he's out on waivers in most leagues.
He shouldn't be. But I understand why.
So yeah, as I was going to say, so who would you give up for Heineke? He's Heineke that signs the Bud Light commercial, right? Isn't he the one? Yeah, I think that's him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's. I mean, players like Jared Goff, you can get rid of. Matt Ryan. Who else is that? Could Joe Burrow?
Matt Ryan's on the way.
What about Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow's on a lot of teams. But a lot of those guys that you said are already, people don't, they're not drafted anyway. Actually, Baker's still out there in most cases. So,
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just a situation where you want to look at. Maybe like Daniel Jones, if he was drafted. So any of the guys that were drafted anywhere between like QB 15 through 20 as your backup, you could probably get rid of. So any of your backup quarterbacks that you're drafted in your league, because you're right. I mean, Baker Mayfield might be rostered in one league, but he could be rostered in another league. So what I would recommend is QB 15 through 20. Any of those guys you can get rid of in favor of Taylor Heineke. He should be your backup at the very least.
Do I start Debo against Arizona this week?
Yeah, start Debo every week.
There you go.
You know, he might not perform every week, but he's definitely clearly the number one wide receiver on that team.
As well he ought to be.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive. He's sort of like a miniature DK Metcalf out there. But yeah, he's really good, and I don't even know if Kittle's going to play, so that will open up even more targets.
Yeah, right now Kittle is doubtful in most leagues that I have him right now. He's doubtful. Kirk. What about Kirk? Do I start Kirk against San Francisco if he's my wide receiver 3?
I think a wide receiver 3 is pretty safe for Kirk. I like that. San Francisco is okay in the passing game. Defense, they're not great. So I like Kirk. It just all depends on where Murray wants to go with the ball. But Kirk has been, he's a wide receiver 31 right now, which would definitely fit your wide receiver 3 needs. So he didn't do well in week 4, but against the Rams. And, I don't know who he was locked up against. He could have been locked up against Ramsey or whatever, but the Rams are definitely a strong team. But before that, he was at least, 24, 17 points in 2 or 3 weeks.
Hollywood, Monday night. Do I start him against Indianapolis?
Absolutely. You definitely want to get him in your lineups. Colts are pretty susceptible to the deep ball, and that's Hollywood. And it doesn't matter. I mean, Lamar Jackson can outthrow him for 2 yards, and he'll still dive and catch the ball. So, Hollywood Brown should get in. I believe strongly that Brown will be in the end zone at least once Monday night.
AJ Brown is back in the lineup.
Yeah. I like him against the Jaguars. I just don't know how much playing time he's going to get coming off an injury, but even so, it's AJ Brown, so you probably have to play him.
Okay. Any last minute pickups that we should grab if they're still on the wire?
Again, it depends, but like Christian Kirk is out there. Jack Pascal, Michael Pittman is out there. Running backs. Someone I really like is Jacoby Myers. I think he's excellent especially in a flex. If you're looking for,
let me give you some of the flex players that are out here now. Let's see, I'll give you that are not on IR. Ayak, Chuba Hubbard, Hines, Delton Schultz, Jared Cook, Janu Smith, Emmanuel Sanders, Curtis Samuel, Latavius Murray, and Ronald Jones.
So I like Hines, Emmanuel Sanders, and then there was someone in that group around those names that you mentioned that I
think you said Brandon Ayuk after that.
Yeah, Brandon
Ayuk is of course, right. I think he's number 1 right now as a wide receiver that's on.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick him.
And then Chuba, like I said, Chuba Hubbard, Hines, Dalton Schultz, Jared Cook.
Yeah, Schultz, especially if you need a tight end, Schultz has been phenomenal.
Yep.
So those three guys, Hines, Sanders, Schultz, I would go, depending on if it's just a flex option, you're not really looking for a tight end, then it would be Sanders, Hines, Schultz.
Let's see. Let me go to another league here. Harris.
Najee Harris?
Yeah.
He's available?
Wait a minute. Let me see. What am I looking here? Yeah. No, Damian Harris.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Damian,
well, that makes more
And
sense.
I'm like, do it now.
Yeah, Damian
Like,
Harris.
James, are you playing in an 8-team league?
No, Damian Harris. I'm trying to separate the guys. Some of these guys are out. Michael Carter, again Schultz, Trey Sermon, Tony Pollard, Alan Dillon, Hunter Renfro.
I like Renfro in that group. If you're looking for running back, man, I don't know right now. Michael, they're all like very much even, pros and cons. I can make a case to grab one of those running backs or not grab one of them. If I had to pick, I would Renfro definitely. That's definitely I would go. But if you're needing a running back, I would go Trey Sermon probably out of those three. But it's not like it's almost pick your poison kind of situation. Any of those three, like I said, I could say you definitely want to get them or you definitely don't want to get them. They're pretty much all in that same grouping.
Let me see. I'm going to go to one more grouping here. Let's see. Okay. Jamal Williams. Cole
Jamal Williams
Beasley.
available?
In this particular league, Jamal Williams, Cole Beasley, Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, J.D. McKissick, Sony Michel.
Wow. Definitely Jamal Williams and Emmanuel Sanders. Cole Beasley is good too. But I would you probably want to lean running
Wait a
back.
minute. Let me go down a little further here because this one might get a little deeper. Let's see. Jalen Rieger, Ronald Jones, McCole Hartman, and Austin Hooper.
Yeah, I would still go Jamal Williams, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, J.D. McKissick. That's probably the order I'd have them in. I'd have Jamal Williams. I said that wrong. I'd have Jamal Williams, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, then J.D. McKissick.
And any that you might think of off the top of your head if they're still there. I didn't go through the quarterbacks or anything like that.
Yeah, because that's a little tricky. Yeah, Christian Kirk may be available. Michael Pittman. None of these guys are at that level as what we were just discussing. Jalen Waddle might be an interesting situation. Those are probably the three guys that I would look at.
Bill, you got any you thinking?
Yeah, I play in deep leagues because once again I enjoy pain. So in one of my fairly deep keeper leagues, I have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. I'm fine there. My running backs, you can now ascertain the kind of depth I'm talking about in the league. My starting running backs are Myles Gaskin and Nyheim Hines. I do have Devontae Adams. He's one of the players I've built around in this league. And Justin Jefferson. Thank you, Jesus.
Nice.
So those are my keepers, obviously, this year, next year, and for hopefully many years afterwards. On my bench, I have Brandon Ayuk, David Johnson, Jalen Reagor, Deshaun Jackson, Pat Freiermuth, who's a future guy, right? I'm hoping that he'll be my starting tight end hopefully next year. Kendrick Bourne, John Ross. I have Michael Gallup on IR. So currently my flex is Khalif Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once again, keeping in mind this is a reasonably deep league, but I'm always willing to make changes. Is someone I already have on my roster, or is someone I should go look for that might give me a little more, zing out of the flex than say Khalif Raymond?
I think it all depends. See, in your league, one or two things is either, hey, how smart the owners are in your league. If they're on top of it, then they would know who Khalif Raymond is, and you might be able to sort of manage that. If they're sort of just, hey, I want to join this league because it sounds fun and whatever, they probably don't know who Khalif Raymond is. So you trying to trade Khalif Raymond would be just like, selling sand to a camel. It's just
right. I wouldn't get enough back for him to make it worth my while. These are fairly knowledgeable people, but even then, I don't think. I mean, I'll dangle him, but I don't think I'm going to get blown away by what the return would be. But I'm more than willing to make moves.
You can put him in a package.
Yeah,
Raymond isn't too bad. Someone's going to have to step up in that, and I think Raymond is a wide receiver 45, 41.
Yes.
He's a wide receiver 46 right now.
Yeah, and I got him really late, so I feel like I kind of won a little bit there. But to give you an idea of what's available in this league, people who are out there would include Olamide Zacchaeus, Cameron Brate, Brandon Bolden, Chris Evans, Taysom Hill, Tajay Sharp, Cedric Wilson, Royce Freeman, Freddie Swain, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's out there. Well, that tells you something. Even in a very deep league, no one has any love.
You don't want Ingram.
Even in a deep league like this one, apparently no love left for him. Travis Homer, Chester Rogers, Tavon Austin, Danny Amendola, who somebody dropped. He wasn't available earlier. Dan Arnold, Nick Westbrook, Akane. Now, I'm somewhat interested in him, but I just have him I'm just watching him. I'm not ready to make a move on him yet. Ricky Seals-Jones, because I think Logan Wilson's hurt. I at least sort of kind of considered him, but didn't pull the trigger. Will Disley, Juwan Johnson, Rodney Smith, Khalil Herbert, Adam Humphries, Le'Veon Bell, Rashard Higgins, and Quez Watkins are the top availables in this league.
Well, Quez Watkins probably won't. Oh no, I always get him Quintus Cephas.
Yeah, it is confusing, but this is Sammy Watkins' younger cousin, as opposed to.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool.
Ask me anything about any player.
Oh, I know you got it. That's why I'm not even questioning you. I'm just you tell me it's, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I believe you. So, anyways, okay, Brandon Bolden is now the James White,
right?
So,
I'm somewhat considering him, but I'm always you heard me a couple of weeks ago say I just am always afraid of picking up any New England, especially when it's the New England running back that everyone thinks you should pick up. It almost seems like Belichick's ha, gotcha.
I think that,
and now Noah Gray is going to go off for 200 points.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but what it really revolves around there are his first and second down backs. James White had an established role; it was to catch passes. And Brandon Bolden is the same thing. He's not going to run the ball; he's just going to catch passes. Right. So his role is not going to change. It's just limited. If you want that kind of thing. Chris Evans, now that Mixon is hurt, might get some activity. He's sort of the Brandon Bolden kind of guy. I would trust more Brandon Bolden. But if you're looking more for something that is continuously, keeping and that kind of stuff, then you probably want to look at Chris Evans because, as you probably already know, he's a rookie and that kind of thing.
Good point.
And then if you're looking at wide receivers, Chester Rogers, he's been getting a lot of targets as far as sort of a backup. And again, you mentioned Westbrook Akine, but again, it's okay, are they getting all these targets because Julio Jones and AJ Brown are out, or is it because they're have a solid role in that offense? I'd probably lean more towards Chester Rogers than Ikini, because I think Chester Rogers was getting targets even with both Julio Jones, and even though it was a small sample size of week 1.
Got it. Okay. I'm definitely watching Chris Evans. The rest, I watched him even just generally because I saw what he did in college, and it took him a while to establish himself, mostly due to injuries. But once he got a chance to show what he could do, he's a big back with really good acceleration, and he's got decent hands. So yeah, I've got him on my radar. And this is a keeper league, so he's much more attractive to me than, say, David Johnson, who's slightly more productive, but obviously the arrow's pointed down on him, and the arrow's pointed up on
that arrow.
So.
That arrow is like even just straight down. It's not even like on a decline for David Johnson.
No,
it's
down. Falling off the table. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. So yeah, since this is a keeper league, I think I may actually make that move, Evans for Johnson. Even if I don't start Evans, I may be the guy look to see what he does this year and then think about keeping him in the future. So yes, thank you.
Oh, you're
welcome. Any other questions for him, Bill?
A bunch. I'm in a lot of leagues, just like you. Not 100 though. Good God, but
that was way back when. Like I said, I wouldn't even think of that now.
Holy! I'm like, everybody gives a reaction out of my leagues. I'm like, that's like not even like half of what Bill has. Oh
I can't even. I discovered my sweet spot's about 5. I'm currently in 8, and 8 is just enough for me to sometimes forget something, right? That's why I realized I think 5 is my sweet spot. I literally can't imagine 100. I can't imagine 50. Forget 100. I mean, even at 12, I bet I'd be making a lot of silly mistakes.
I have to organize all my stuff. I
wasn't retired then either. I was still working the full 8 hours a day. It was like,
Holy
but
hell.
so yeah, like I said.
Well, I mean, even if you're retired, that's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm retired now, and I wouldn't try it. So yeah, but
right.
Yeah, that was like I said, it was interesting, and like I said, I came out with a 68% winning average. So
you should seriously, you should write an article or maybe a small. But yeah, okay. So yet another deep dynasty league because I never learned my lesson.
You're in 2 of those?
In this one, I've got Tom Brady. Thank God he didn't retire last year.
Yeah, right.
Running backs are trash. Ty Johnson and Jeremy McNichols. Please, Jesus.
Yikes.
I have to do something at some point about that. I've got Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Dawson Schultz. Right now I have Chase Claypool in the flex. I'm starting the Broncos defense at the moment, though I'm always open to suggestions. I've got Matt Prater at kicker. And then since it's a keeper league, a lot of these rookie guys or younger guys are, guys I'm looking at, like Hunter Long. This guy is a future move. I've got Terrace Marshall, who has at some weeks has actually started for me, but he's mostly on the bench. I picked up Jamison Crowder because somebody foolishly let him go.
Wow, I can't believe he's in that league. I'm surprised someone let him
go. Yeah, it's a deep league, and most of these guys are good, but this person may have just been impatient or desperate or something. But they lost my game. So
exactly.
They picked up Crowder, which was a very pleasant surprise. I have Dami Brown once again just for future purposes. Elijah Moore once again future purposes. I also have Gabriel Davis, Nelson Aguilar, Jared Cook, Cole Beasley, Zach Pascal, Tim Patrick, who at some weeks has started for me. Since it's a deep bench league, I have Teddy Bridgewater on my bench as my backup quarterback. I have Robert Tonyan, who actually, when I like the matchup, has even started a few times, though I've now realized I shouldn't have ever started him over Schultz. But early in the season, I didn't realize how Schultz was going to be apparently consistently good, which he had never done before. And then somebody I picked up off waivers was John Ross. Sort of just an experiment to see if this is a lightning in a bottle thing, or is he going to continue to be like a consistent deep threat. So as always, I'm looking to get a little more pop out of my flex if at all possible. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to slide in Crowder over either Claypool in the flex or any of my wide receivers who are currently Higgins and Cooper. And I'm thinking probably not, but I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of Claypool in the flex.
I would do Claypool in the flex for sure.
Okay, then I'm leaving
Crowder. Yeah.
Okay, so Crowder will stay on my bench, which is fine.
No. Put Crowder over.
Oh, I am putting Crowder in. Oh, okay. See, I misunderstood. All right. Glad
Crowder, like every week until they start making that change out of Ben Roethlisberger or whatever.
Okay.
And then I would still see, okay, if whoever's a quarterback, can he throw deep? You know.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That's what I was sort of leaning towards making the move, but I definitely wanted to talk to you before I definitely made that move for sure.
Yeah, your instincts were correct on that one for sure.
Yep. In one of my normal leagues, I do play in some normal leagues too. Oh, I should have started Henderson. Oh, I hate myself. I just was afraid to start Henderson. I should have started Henderson. So my running backs, instead of Darrell Henderson, are now Zach Moss and Saquon Barkley. I have Darnold starting at quarterback in this league. I have Cordell Patterson, who's been a pleasant surprise. Is currently one of my wide receivers because he's listed as a wide receiver. I have Devontae Adams. I have TJ Hawkinson. I have Justin Tucker, and I have currently the Titans defense who are facing the Jaguars. So that should be good.
That should be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. My backups are Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and this is one of the leagues where I was able to pick up Michael Thomas late.
I like that one. That's coming. That's coming soon.
I know. I got off to a slow start in this league, but it's like, beat me now while you can, suckers.
You're right. Exactly.
Because I won't be. I'll be able to have Patterson in the flex or even on the bench soon because I will not have to lean on him anymore. Hopefully. Any suggestions that occur to you that I should make changes I should make?
Okay, run it down for me one more time, please.
So I'm starting Sam Darnold. I should have started Henderson, but I didn't. But so Henderson did very well on my bench Thursday. But I have Darnold at quarterback. I have my two running backs are Barkley and Moss. I have Terry McLaurin and of all people Cordell Patterson, or I guess Devontae Adams actually, and then Cordell Patterson in the flex. TJ Hawkinson at tight end. My kicker is Justin Tucker. And right now my defense is the Titans who are facing Jacksonville. It should be a good day at the office for them, I hope.
Yeah.
But and then foolishly I left Darrell Henderson on my bench because I was just nervous for I don't know what reason about playing him. I should have played him.
About it. I've done that a billion times. It
drives me
absolutely nuts.
It's just it was in the back of my mind, like because right up to the like almost kickoff, I was like, should I? And I just coming up with reasons not to do it. Like, well, he's coming back from injury, and they're running back grade, and maybe Seattle will be loaded. Why would Seattle be loaded up against the run? That would make sense. That would make. Well, I was just making stuff up at that point.
Sure.
But yeah, so
and then you don't do it, and then they go off, and then you're just like, damn it.
you really do spend the whole time just yelling at
yourself. Yep.
Oh my God, I was so mad at myself. But yeah, so Henderson, Gainwell, Sanders, and of course, like I said, Michael Thomas are on my bench. So any moves that make sense, or you think that lineup is good as is?
So you said Gainwell, Sanders, and who was the other on your bench?
Gainwell, Sanders, of course, Darrell Henderson, the one I was beating myself about, are on my. So at some point, I need to pick up a wide receiver because the bye weeks are coming soon. But I'm hoping that with Michael Thomas, being active at that point, I should be okay. But yeah, at this point, my bench is Henderson, Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and then, like I said, Mike Thomas, who is not quite active but should be soon, is my bench.
Yeah, I like either Gainwell or Sanders over Moss.
Okay. So that's the problem for me is I'm not sure which one to play. I guess Sanders will get slightly more touches.
He should, but it's one of those situations where Sanders overall has been the guy, but Gainwell is pretty much knocking on the door. Think of an even closer Tony Pollard to Ezekiel Elliott situation.
Right. I mean, they had an even split in touches the last game, right? Wasn't it the same?
It might have been. I know Gainwell outscored Sanders like 20 points to 7 or something.
Right. I know he outscored him, but I think they had either the same amount of touches or darn close to the same.
I can definitely.
Yeah, so that's why I was a little afraid. I was like if I, I'll really be mad at myself if I start Sanders and Gainwell goes off. Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't start both.
Right.
I want to say Gainwell, go Gainwell, but it's just I'm not 100% sure.
Right. It's just so You're so nervous about both of them. So the touches I think broke down to what?
So Sanders last week.
I know it was close. If it wasn't exactly even, it may have been like one different.
Sanders had seven carries for 13 yards.
Yeesh. It was bad.
And yeah, he was. And Gainwell had 3 for 31 and a touchdown.
Right.
So he like four more carries. It's really what it's come down to is that Gainwell is doing much more with what
less
he's given than what Sanders has, even though he's getting less. So he's much more efficient than Miles Sanders is.
Right. So what are you projecting for Zach Moss to do in the game against Kansas City? Because that's the other thing I'm trying to figure out. If I pull the trigger and put in either Gainwell or Sanders over Moss, is there any chance that Moss has a fantastic game? Though I guess it's probably unlikely, right?
I mean, I think it's one of those things where you could definitely score a touchdown, and that will make your day. I don't see him rushing for more than like 50 yards. It's whether he's going to get in the end zone or not. If he gets in the end zone, then it's it's one of those where you're definitely going to reap the rewards. And as you mentioned, the Chiefs aren't exactly great.
They're not a stalwart. Right. They're not. Yeah. They're not. Right. They're not the 85 Bears.
And he's not going to catch. He's not going to catch a lot of passes, Moss.
Right.
So let's just say he catches 2 passes for 20 yards. And that's 4 points. And then he runs for, say, 60. So that's 10 points. And then
if he gets a score, that's really 16, close. Right?
If he scores, it's 16, correct. I would give Moss more of a leeway towards the touchdown. So I would probably stick with Moss.
Moss over either Sanders or Gainwell?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I was leaning. I will go back to my initial lean.
Okay, well, since he was talking about Gainwell, was the Gainwell and the other Eagles running back, what about, and he mentioned Moss, what about Moss and Singletary?
It's the same thing with Moss and Singletary are pretty much like A and B. They have the same.
They really are almost the same 2 backs.
Yeah. And
so if you have Singletary, you insert Singletary into the lineup?
No, they're going to score pretty much the same amount of points, Moss and Singletary. It's which one gets the touchdown and which one doesn't, kind of thing.
Yep, there it is.
So one will get 10 and one will get 16.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere around
16 there. Exactly.
Because I think 1 week Moss gave you 13 and Singletary gave me 10. It was like, really? Luckily, they were on different teams. Strategy for your second quarterback. there have been teams, there have been leagues that I looked at, and usually, I play in the same one, so I kind of know the strategy of all the guys that draft. And next, year after year, I try to come up with some little twist that makes, a little different. So a lot of times I find like maybe I'll have a quarterback. Uh, you start drafting quarterbacks around round 4, round 5. When is the best round to take your second quarterback? Because usually I want my second quarterback to be as closely efficient to my first string quarterback as possible. Now, the deeper the league, of course, then I have to, like maybe get down to a Baker Mayfield or, one of those guys on my second quarterback. But I do have uh, at least four teams where either Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, or excuse me, I look at this other one. Justin Herbert are my starters, and Lamar Jackson, um, Derek Carr, or I think in one league I have Aaron Rodgers and uh, um, Lamar Jackson. So, what's your strategy when you draft that second quarterback?
I think if you're just sort of in, a normal 12-team league, my strategy would be to get one of the top 5 quarterbacks and then just forget about the second one until either way late or not even draft one at all, and just pick one up off the waiver wire. Like, for instance, Taylor Heineke, right? He wasn't drafted at all. So you could pick him up, and then someone's injured or out for the year, and you could just trade that out or whatever you need to do. But I'm really probably, if I get one of the 5, I'm not even looking at quarterbacks. If after that, then what you could do is, so if you say you get Aaron Rodgers, what I would do is look at Aaron Rodgers' bye week and see what quarterback after QB 12 is really good on that week. So if Aaron Rodgers has a bye week on week 7 and Trevor Lawrence plays the Bengals or a team like that on week 7, then I want to get Trevor Lawrence because I know that Trevor Lawrence against the Bengals is going to exploit the heck out of them. Or, someone to that effect. Joe Burrow, the Bengals are playing the Jaguars. This is reverse it in week 7. Then I want to get Joe Burrow because I know every single week I'm playing Aaron Rodgers except for his bye week. And that's week 7. And who do I want to fill in that one? One with a great matchup, Joe Burrow.
Right.
See, that's kind of how I draft my 2 quarterbacks. As I look at the matchups, and there are certain matchups that Lamar Jackson has that are going to be more favorable than Aaron Rodgers. But also, like now, I do that strategy with my kickers and my defense, and just about everyone else I carry at least a backup for. What do you think about that strategy? Because I also carry 2 tight ends. I carry 2 tight ends. I carry 2 tight ends. I carry 2 quarterbacks, and usually 4 running backs and 5 wide receivers.
I do not carry more than one defense on my rosters.
Yeah, I change it week to week depending upon who's left out there.
Yeah, so the streaming defenses is fine. That's definitely a strategy. Streaming kickers is another strategy that you could do as well. I draft 2 kickers just because I got in a situation one year where one injured himself on a Thursday, and then right before like on Saturday, and my other kicker pulled a groin, and I had like no kickers that day.
But you just said you only carry one quarterback.
Yep.
Yep.
A quarterback's going to get you more points than a kicker, so wouldn't it be more sense to carry two quarterbacks? And if one is hurt, you still have
I'm just talking about during the draft. Like,
okay.
So yeah.
I follow.
I mean, it all depends on what your strategy. Like, if I only draft one quarterback if it's in the top 5 quarterbacks. If someone out races me to those top 5 quarterbacks, then I'll definitely going to have 2 quarterbacks on my roster. It's just whether I get one of those top 5 or not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in very few leagues, I think unless you're drafting within the first 10, well, the first 8, I guess, especially after round 3, someone's grabbed Patrick Mahomes, regardless of whether So and then someone, of course, has grabbed somebody else, and But anyway,
that's one of the things that I also strategize is if I'm really 100% after one of those top 5 quarterbacks. I'll wait till I know, like Patrick Mahomes is going to probably like 95% go as the first quarterback. So let's just say Patrick Mahomes goes in the 3rd or 4th round, whatever. That signals to me, okay, you better be looking to get one of these 4 or, in the next round or 2, because by the next round or 2, all 5 are going to be gone. So I use Patrick Mahomes as almost like a starter whistle.
Right.
So it's like that guy's now off the board. I better get on my quarterbacks or not.
All right, guys. Are we ready for predictions for this week?
Yes, sir.
I have a few more questions.
Go ahead.
Sure. Go for it.
In this league, because when will I stop playing in deep dynasty leagues? What will I learn? But I have Sam Darnold. My running backs, God help me, are Peyton Barber, Damian Harris. The running backs on my bench are Khalil Herbert. That's a future play.
Right.
Travis Homer, of all people. Philip Lindsay, who I'm hoping will come back from the dead at some point. My receivers are Spanish Cole Beasley and regular Cole Beasley. Kendrick Bourne, Gabriel Davis, Simi Fehoko, that's a future play. Right. Tyler Johnson, also a future play. Christian Kirk, Donovan Jones, Khalil Herbert, and I'm starting. Well, I already started Robert Woods because he went on Thursday.
Nice.
And now my starters, I can start up to either 3 or 4 receivers. My other starters right now are Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, and Christian Kirk. But if I'm always open to suggestion, my tight end is Mike Gesicki, and right now my defense is the Los Angeles Chargers, who I don't like their matchup. But I don't think there's a lot of better options. But I'll check the waiver wire just to be sure. But
yeah, Chargers are good though too. Their defense, I mean,
right, it's a good defense. I'm not wild about the matchup, but I don't think I would ditch them just for whatever happens this week.
Yeah. It all depends. I mean, I don't even know how many points the Browns have been scoring, to be honest with you, either. I mean, I know Baker Mayfield is done 0. But anyways, I like Gesicki as your tight end as long as Jacoby Brissett is
right, because Brissett loves tight ends. Yes,
he definitely loves his tight ends. And Kirk, and then who are on you? You said
so. My backup tight end is Ferkser, but he's just there in case of emergency. Yeah. I have a lot of wide receivers because I always draft a lot of wide receivers, and it's a deep roster league. So
I think what you have is fine.
Right now my starters are Robert Woods, Emmanuel Sanders, Christian Kirk, and Cole Beasley. And as I said, my backups or guys on my bench are Spanish Cole Beasley, Kendrick Bourne, Gabriel Davis, Simi Fehoko, Tyler Johnson, who's a future play, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Khalif Raymond. My running back situation is kind of tragic, but I just have to kind of ride it out because in a deep dynasty league, what are you going to get at running back? Not much. Like I said, I have Peyton Barber and Damian Harris, Khalil Herbert. Those are starters. Khalil Herbert and Travis Homer and Philip Lindsay are all on the bench, and Darnold's my starting quarterback, as I said.
Khalil Herbert's not too bad now because David Montgomery's out, so that might.
Should I consider starting him over Barber?
I would.
Okay, well that's.
I mean,
no
Barber's not getting anything unless Jacobs is out.
Right, which I keep thinking at some point he'll get hurt again, but he hasn't gotten hurt again yet. So
yeah, I would definitely think that Jacobs is going to get. I mean, it's just the way he's been. So,
well, part of it's his running style. He's not the biggest cat in the world. He has tendency to try to truck people, and when you're 208 pounds, and he's packed in there pretty good, but he's not Derrick Henry.
No, not at all. I forget who do we assign Spanish Beasley to? Oh
yeah, so I have that's what I call Braxton Berrios. I call him Spanish.
Oh, Braxton Berrios. I remember last week we assigned that, and I absolutely loved it because it's so. But I forgot.
It's so accurate. Okay. Yes, because it's so accurate. I mean, he physically plays like these big Beasley, except for the hair and hopefully the political beliefs. But he But he plays like him. He runs routes like him. He gives you, and he's just like Beasley, he's slightly more athletic than people realize.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's so perfect. Yeah, I love it.
All right, guys, let's start with the predictions. And as usual, we're starting with the Thursday night game. This Thursday night, it will be Tampa Bay at Philadelphia.
I mean, are you serious?
I didn't make the schedule. I'm just reading.
No, I know. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, James. Here's what I will say: Philadelphia will not quit. They're going to fight like hell, but they're undermanned. They've been hit hard by injury. I mean, this is the worst possible scenario for them. Right? This is so much the wrong kind of team for them to be playing right now. They'll be better after the bye week, I think, but this is bad. This is not a good situation for them.
Yeah, and I agree. It's the Eagles are not a good team anyways. So I'm definitely with Tampa Bay on this. Tom Brady, all three of the wide receivers from Tampa Bay, and then for Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, maybe Waddle, or Devontae Smith. Sorry, I get those teams switched. Devontae Smith, maybe. And then maybe by next Thursday, it's going to be Miles Sanders out and Kenneth Gainwell in. But I think you can definitely look at those two as a flex option.
Fantasy starters. Everybody from Tampa Bay, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Tampa Bay.
Start your Buccaneers.
Yeah, outside of the running backs, you're going to probably start them in one shape or form. Eagles, Jalen Hurts is the only starter.
Monday night matchup, gentlemen. The Colts at the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of size coming out of it.
Yeah, this is depressing, especially after they had just won last week. I don't think they're going to win this week on Monday Night Football against the Ravens. So I'll just get it out of the way and say the Ravens win. Starters: Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, and Mark Andrews. That's about it. There's no really Colts starters. Jonathan Taylor. I forgot Jonathan Taylor. That's it.
Bill?
Well, I'm agreeing both with the prediction, and yes, Jonathan Taylor to me is pretty much a must start. Is there anybody else on the Colts that's a must start? No, right? Yeah. I mean, Hines might be a flex option, and I'm playing a lot of deep. So I'm playing Hines, and even he's my RB2 in one league because it's a very deep league. But I don't like it, but I'm doing it. And then, obviously for the Ravens, if Lamar's a start. Marquise could be a flex or a WR2. I mean, unless you're in a super deep league, and he might even be a starting wide receiver in a really deep league. Their tight ends often get the ball, although Andrews hasn't produced like he has in years past because they've been pushing them all more down the field. But this might be the game where he gets right and gets 2 touchdowns or something. Tyson Williams could be a flex.
No.
No.
Ignore Tyson Williams.
Oh, okay. Ignore Tyson Williams then.
Yeah,
Tyson Williams. We're about done then.
Yeah, Tyson Williams was actually a healthy scratch last week.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind.
All right. The Jets at Atlanta.
Jets in Atlanta. Jeez.
Jets coming off that first win.
I think Jamison Crowder, you could start him in either a flex or a wide receiver 2, hopefully more of a flex. Falcons, you want to start Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts has done absolutely nothing. Kyle Pitts is the and no running in the none of the run. Cortland Sutton could be a flex option. That's about it. Corey Davis maybe is a wide receiver 2 option, maybe, but that's
Gentlemen, is this the first year that as I said, in most of these leagues on ESPN, they're 10-team leagues, and Matty Ice is available. Usually Matty Ice is one of those quarterbacks that one of the top 10. Now you see him on a lot of benches.
Yeah. He actually had a good week 4, but I think it's just one of those things where Matty Ice is a good quarterback, and but he's not nearly what he was before. This offense is new and a different way of him playing, so I wouldn't. I don't know if his last week's performance is a sign of what's going to become, where he's understanding the offense now and is in a groove and gets it, and they're all going to be better for it, or if it's just one of those things that good quarterbacks do. They just, they're not going to be someone that is going to put up goose eggs every single week. That's just going to have to come with time. So he would be someone I'd have on my radar and look at and see, okay, how is he doing? And then saying, okay, well, he's had 2 or 3 pretty good games in a row. Now I'm going to pull the trigger. Or it's like, okay, he's just not good, and ignore. I think by week 7, we'll exactly know what's going on with this Falcons offense.
Yep. Oh, okay. I should have asked this before, but I'll ask it quickly now. So if you are in a situation where you had to replace a quarterback due to injury, and you're looking at, shockingly, Derek Carr being available, Matt Ryan and Daniel Jones, I'm assuming you're picking Derek Carr out of that pile, even though he's facing the Chicago Bears defense this week.
Yes, I for sure. I think Derek Carr, he struggled a little bit against the Chargers, but I have full faith in Derek Carr every week, almost every week.
There's so many things I like about you, Mike, and that's one of the things that I like. You, like me, like Derek Carr more than almost everyone else does. But yes, thank you.
Yeah. Derek Carr is not a favorable player by all means, and that's just because it's a lot of fantasy owners have recency bias, and they just they remember Derek Carr for the last, actually before last year, because he was a QB 12 last year. But that went under the radar. And then all before that, his, really bad performances. And he's always been sort of a strong quarterback. It's just
right. We had one really great year and was an MVP candidate. Then he gets hurt, right? Right at the end of the season. And, they run out, what's his name, from Michigan State?
Bill, do you remember a boxer named Ingemar Johansson?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he had one good year too. He was a world
He
champ.
did. He had one very
Yeah,
good year.
yeah.
Right. Got to fight Floyd Patterson and everything.
Yeah. One great year though, you know.
He was an Olympic. I think he was an Olympic gold medalist
Yeah.
before that.
He fought Floyd Patterson. I don't think that turned out too well for him.
No, that part didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
but he was a world champion, though. He was
briefly a world champion.
He
Yes.
was a world heavyweight champion.
How did he become a world? Was it because Floyd Patterson wasn't?
Floyd Patterson wasn't the champ yet.
Right.
He actually, I think he had one of the other titles. No, at that time,
Patterson was moving up from light heavy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, Patterson was always an undersized heavyweight. I think he was, even as a heavyweight, was boxing at like 188 or something.
189, 190.
Yeah, he was a very small heavyweight.
Yeah.
Was it because he wasn't very tall, right? He was only like 5'9" or whatever it was.
Well, no, he's a little taller than that.
I think he was 5'10". He was
close, he was
close.
Right.
He was close to the 6 feet.
Right. Yeah. He was about 5'11", but he was a great boxer. But he wasn't really a heavyweight. And when he ran into really talented heavyweights, it showed. But he could have been one of the great light heavyweight champions of all time if he'd stayed a light heavyweight.
Yeah. Correct. Well, no, there was a guy that was he a deputy sheriff in Albuquerque, New Mexico? Bob Foster. He's a pretty good light heavyweight too. But enough boxing.
Next show.
I love boxing.
That's on Tuesday night with K9 Bunders, Mike. Anytime you want to come to that show, I got one of them for you too. I don't know. You remember K9? He was the runner-up for season 2 of the Contender. So yeah, we got a little boxing for you too, Mike.
That's cool.
We covered. Hey, it's the Sports Crib Network, not the Sports Crib Show. But anyway, let's Green Bay at Cincinnati. Another kind of, fantasy-wise anyway, you expect the usual guys to put up the usual numbers. What's your thoughts here besides the winner, Mike?
I agree. Of course, Joe Mixon is out, so make sure that he's not in your lineups.
But you're going to get Chase. You're going to put Chase in there, though.
You're definitely going to put Chase. Higgins should have a good game. We'll see about Boyd if he's more targeted because Mixon is not there. And then of course the Packers, the trio.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones.
So who wins?
I think the Packers win this one.
Okay, so far we got a home team winning. We got Bill, what's your pick here?
For the Packers?
You're picking the Packers?
Bengals?
Yeah, Packers, Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you the Packers, I thought they might get off to a slow start because their quarterback was, doing some other stuff. But I think that from this point forward, you're going to see the real Packers. And I talked about the Revenge Redemption Tour. The Revenge Redemption Tour is now going to be well underway. You're going to get to see the real Packers offense for the rest of this season. They're not going to lose too many more games, I don't think.
Well, hey, I don't mind sitting Lamar Jackson. I'm fine with it. It's okay. It doesn't do any good for my Steelers in the standings, but hey, what the hell? So 2 for the road team. Bill, Detroit at Minnesota.
I'm going to pick the Vikings in a very close game. I'd have to see what the spread is. I might be taking Detroit in the spread if they're getting 3.5. If they get 3 in the hook, I would go with them. But I think it's going to be a very close game. But I think the Vikings are just the slightly better team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Bill. I like Vikings in this one. Lions 0-5. Going to be 0-5 anyways. As far as fantasy, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams for Detroit, Dalvin Cook if he plays. If not, Alexander Madison. Justin Jefferson. I don't know about Adam Thielen. He is so dependent on a touchdown right now. He is like putting up a running back kind of statistical numbers when he's catching the ball. It's like a measly like 6.5 yards a catch. It's just horrible. And unless he gets in the end zone, then you're not getting any points out of him. So yeah, I mean, unless you don't have excuse me, unless you don't have a better option, then I benched Adam Thielen this week. Yeah, so those are sort of my guys.
I've had
okay. One quick question about the Vikings. Is Dalvin Cook going? Do we know if he's playing?
I don't know.
He's still doubtful, I think, as of today. Let's see. I'm looking at the depth charts here. Let's see.
He's questionable. He missed practice Thursday for a consecutive day. That's the last that they. Oh no, I'm sorry. Questionable week 5 against the Lions. Game time decision. Failed to practice at any point throughout the week. So if I have to make it, guess I'd say Madison's playing, but it's going to be Sunday morning when we find out exactly what's happening.
Got it.
But even so, you would think that Madison would get the majority of the carries. Just coming off an injury, you're not going to work Cook down and then. Well, I wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe
I honestly. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I wouldn't worry about wearing him down against Detroit. You let him get get enough to get the feel of the ball to get hit and whatnot. But I mean, if he's healthy, you playing. I think just like a pitcher, you put him on. You put him on a snap count.
And that's definitely a possibility. I mean, yeah, you could definitely do that and to see how his body responds and those kind of things.
Yeah. So would he be a good fantasy start?
If they limit him, I wouldn't do it. I honestly don't think he's even going to play this week. I think they're going to go with Alexander Madison. If I had to pick one or the other, that's going to be the full-time guy there. It's going to be Madison for this week.
Anything else, Bill?
And just for those who weren't aware of it, they've deactivated the Seattle Seahawks have deactivated Chris Carson. He's inactive for their next game. It looks like with a neck injury. So if you parked Rashad Penny or whoever it is deep on your bench, might be time to dust them off. I'm trying to think of who else.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, okay, you have Russ out, you have Carson out.
Yep.
And you have Gino throwing the ball. So so Mike, I mean, how much fantasy value do you put on DK and I can't
either Lockett?
Yeah, and Lockett fantasy value on the next coming weeks.
Well, you're definitely going to put a down arrow on both of those guys. I don't even know if Lockett even becomes the starter now or a start. You might think about flex at the.
That's right. Yeah.
But DK, he's probably. I mean, they're both going to go down. So DK will probably go more from a wide receiver 1 to a wide receiver 2, and then Lockett from a wide receiver 2 to a flex.
Okay. Denver at Pittsburgh. Let's see. I said that Pittsburgh would win 5 games, right? No, I don't think this is one of them either, but go ahead.
You might be right about that. I mean, I was disagreeing with you a couple of weeks ago when they were playing, who was it, the Bengals? I'm like, nah, James, you're too hard on yourself. You're too hard on yourself.
Yeah,
I think
right.
you might be right on it now.
Yep.
But as far as Denver goes, Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think you start Teddy Bridgewater. He should be back.
You don't start neither one of the. I mean,
No.
who really, unless you're in Bill in one of these really deep leagues, I don't even know. Right now, I'm considering, and I only have him on one team. I'm considering benching Najee Harris. I'm still playing Claypool because of the yards down the field, but as far as a running back, I don't know if I start Najee anymore.
I go with Najee. Najee is almost matchup proof. He's not only does he get the dump offs from Ben Roethlisberger, but he's someone. The yards on the field probably are not going to be as great.
He's good as a football player, but he doesn't give you fantasy points.
Oh, he gives you fantasy points. He's like top 5. He's the 4th running back, top 4 running back in fantasy points right now.
And that's at what, 16?
6. What do you mean 16
points?
I
think he's averaging what, about 16?
Oh, averaging? Yeah, he's averaging 18.6.
Okay. 18 points.
Okay.
So you're pretty much on it, but yeah, 18.6 to be exact.
Yeah. Okay.
And so yeah, it's the receptions. It's but you're right about the yards. That's not so great, but he's getting those points in one way or the other.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, is Sutton a viable? Well, considering Pittsburgh's secondary, I think Bill. I think they still. You want to go try out? I mean, anyway. When you're, I mean, is it a good time to start Sutton and the boys against the Pittsburgh secondary?
No, it's not really even the Pittsburgh secondary as much as, I mean, that definitely has a factor to it. But I don't think you can trust Cortland Sutton. He's had one game of the 4.
Right.
I don't know if it's injuries or if it's just script plays or what it is, but yeah, until he could start putting consecutive games together on a consistent basis, you can't trust him.
Himes has just been upgraded to active for tomorrow's game.
Nyheim Hines?
Yeah, he's just been upgraded to active.
That's good because they'll need him. So yeah, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson are the only 2 that I would start from Pittsburgh and Denver. You have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. That's about it. Oh, Noah Fant. I should have thrown Noah Fant in there. Noah Fant for sure.
Okay. Tight end. Okay.
Yeah.
Miami. Wow. Miami at Tampa Bay. Boy, Tampa Bay goes on the road to Philly on Thursday, and they get Miami on Sunday. So I don't know. It looks like it could be a good week for Tampa Bay here. But your thoughts, Mike? The winner, and who do we start for Miami? I think we kind of know who starts for Tampa Bay, but
yeah, for sure. That doesn't change much. For Miami, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle. That's probably it. And the Buccaneers win this game.
Bill, I heard you mention Gesicki a couple of times.
So. It's because I'm starting him. And as was mentioned, Jacoby Brissett finds his tight ends. I mean, if the tight end is open or is close to open, especially across the middle, he's likely to get the ball. So, and especially when he's not a super athlete, but when he gets outside the pocket, a lot of guys get outside the pocket and they start driving the ball deep down the field. When Jacoby gets outside the pocket, he hits tight ends on drag routes, right? Or even little like out and ups. So it's a good thing for me that Jacoby's the quarterback in Miami, because it means that Mike Gesicki should have some big games.
Let's see. New Orleans at Washington, Bill.
This is actually a tougher game to pick than if you'd asked me at the beginning of the season, right? I thought New Orleans was going to be one of the better teams in the league. I do think this will be a kind of a get-right game for them. I think they're going to look more like the team that we expected to see. But Washington's defense is a mess. I don't know. Like that's the thing that surprised me. Like I thought, looking at this game prior to the season, it was going to be, this explosive offense versus this very dangerous defense. The offense hasn't been as good as I thought it would be, and the defense has been dramatically worse than I thought it would be. So something's got to give, right? New Orleans offense can't continue to sputter against this absolutely horrific defense, or will this defense that's looked kind of poor be bolstered by facing this offense that has failed to be consistently productive? Yeah. So you can't both lose, right?
Right.
But my gun to my head, I slightly have more trust for the offense of New Orleans. And I think there'll be some big plays to be had by both offenses, though. I think that, as Terry McLaurin often does, he'll catch what looks like a nothing play and somebody will take a bad angle, or he'll make a great cut and turn that play that looked like it should have gained 12 yards into 30 or 40 yards. It'll be interesting to see also with the loss of Logan Thomas, to see if they can still get consistent production out of Ricky Seals-Jones, who's actually a slightly better athlete than Logan Thomas, but is less polished. Once again, he's a former wide receiver, while Logan Thomas was a former quarterback. So the advantage is that the guy who was used to playing quarterback had a really great understanding of offense, like everything. Understood blocking schemes, understood route concept, what defenses were doing. And Ricky Seals-Jones isn't quite as developed mentally, even though he's a better athlete. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him. But yeah, I'm leaning, once again, I think it's a 3 or 4 point win probably for the Saints.
Mike?
Alvin Kamara. Washington, Terry McLaurin. I would normally say, what's his name, the tight end there, but Logan Thomas, but he's out. I think that's it, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, Terry McLaurin and Alvin Kamara.
Philadelphia at Carolina. Mike?
So I would go here with Carolina. And then as far as fantasy starters, Jalen Hurts, maybe Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell, maybe. Wide receivers, they don't really have anything out of Devontae Smith. Panthers, Chuba Hubbard, maybe. You have the two rookie running backs going against each other, and Hubbard and Gainwell. That's interesting. Just thought about Sam Darnold for sure, DJ Moore for sure. That's about it.
Okay.
Tight ends, I forgot. You could start Zach Ertz or what's his name?
If you have both Goddard and Ertz, which one do you tend to start? Is it Goddard or Ertz for you?
I'd probably start Goddard more than Ertz. They, for the most part, they'll probably put up similar production, so it kind of doesn't matter. But if I had to choose one, I'd probably go Goddard. He seems to get more of the touchdown targets.
Okay. This is my last question. I have one last lineup I didn't set, so I'm going to ask real quick. Flex. My choices are Brandon Cooks, TJ Hawkinson, Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, Zach Moss, or Melvin Gordon III. And Mixon is questionable. So those are
I got Cooks, Hawkinson, and then who else?
Melvin Gordon III, Zach Moss, Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, Mixon, who of course is questionable.
I would have said Hawkinson a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go Cooks.
Cooks. Okay. That's what I have there now, so I'll leave him there.
I would actually even think about this. I have no logical basis on this other than a feeling. So do with that what you will. But,
okay.
Brandon Cooks to me is a sell high candidate just because the Houston Texans are so bad that I think you're going to just see the whole team crumbling as the season goes on. Therefore, Cooks is going to become irrelevant in this offense just because they just, who cares anymore? We're not going to be good. So, Cooks,
right? We're playing for the top pick of next year's draft, kids.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So just go ahead and just mail it in.
So who you got, Bill? Carolina?
Yeah. So I had Cooks sitting in the flex at the moment. I was wondering if I should make a move. Hawkinson had been my starting tight end earlier in the year, but I picked up Brandon Schultz in a trade, and I've been starting him recently.
Yeah, they're really targeting him quite a bit.
So who's your winner, Bill?
Oh, for which game?
Philadelphia, Carolina.
Wait, Carolina and Philadelphia?
Yeah.
I mean, once again, I'm not trying to be mean, but there's only a couple of teams I'm not going to pick over Philadelphia at this point. I think Carolina is, going this way, and I think the Eagles are going that way.
Okay. What about Tennessee and Jacksonville, Bill?
Well, I don't know if you've been reading the papers or listening to the radio or watching TV or on the internet recently, but you have a few distractions in Jacksonville, James. Now, some teams rally around their coach in these situations and they play harder, but that's not going to happen here.
Last paper I read said zigzag on it.
Well, even if that's what you've been reading, I bet you still have heard that they've got problems in Jacksonville. I don't think this is one of those situations where they rally around their coach. My understanding is they already were kind of looking, side-eyed at him, and now this is going to, I think, put it sort of over the top. I think that Jacksonville is going to start that race to the bottom also. There's only – if Houston played Jacksonville, I would have problems picking, but I think anyone else, I'm going to be picking the other team over Jacksonville.
By the way, this is another conversation that we had Thursday, Mike. Urban Myers, I mean, it was just a lap dance, right? I mean,
no, a little more than that.
Yeah, he kind of put his fingers in the booty hole.
Come on, man. Hey, who's that? Are you gonna believe your lying eyes? Come on, man. What's up? It was just it wasn't even a lap dance. It was just a community get together. Go ahead.
Community relations.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go. Checking out human resources. But anyway, go ahead. Your thoughts here, Mike. Who do we start?
Well, you're going to start Derrick Henry for sure. AJ Brown is going to go. Julio Jones is out, so don't start him. And then Jacksonville, James Robinson. That's going to be a fun matchup between Derrick Henry and James Robinson. Wide receiver wise, I want to see what Laviska Shenault can do, but I'm not really starting him. And then that's probably about it. Yeah. I mean, there's no tight ends there or anything for Jacksonville.
And the winner is?
Oh, Titans should win this, but I'm going to go Jacksonville in this one.
Whoa, okay. Out on the limb here.
Yeah, I'm rolling the dice on this one, but I think Jacksonville is going to be an upset.
Okay. New England at Houston. Mike, who do you start?
So I'll pick New England on this. This should be just an absolutely slaughterhouse for New England. But as starters go, Brandon Cooks, New England, Jacoby Myers, and a flex. That's about it.
Okay.
You might want to go with the tight ends. It depends on where you are, but they're still just like in the blob. So it's like if you have better options, go with it. If not, then go with Hunter Henry or Johnny Smith, either one.
A blowout, but you're only picking one New England guy. Okay.
Yeah, there's not really much there. I mean, you could think about Brandon Bolden in the flex because he's going to catch some passes, and Jacoby Myers, definitely. He's definitely a flex option. He's not going to score a touchdown for you because he hasn't in like over 100 catches, but maybe this week will be the week. Who knows?
There you go. Play the averages thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Someday.
Yeah, someday. One of these days he'll be in there.
We talked about that Russell Wilson situation once again. You got that New England quarterback that's sitting out there as an alternative for Geno. Do you start New England quarterback over Houston? He did. He battled
Jones.
He did battle Tom Brady pretty close as far as numbers.
He did.
If he's out there on waivers, do you grab him up for this game?
It's not a bad option if you're looking at sort of that kind of situation.
Well, let's put it. Let's give a good scenario here. Jimmy G's out, so you have to pick between the New England quarterback or the San Francisco quarterback. Who do you take?
I'll probably go with Trey Lance just because I know Trey Lance is going to run, and that usually secures your floor. Where Mac Jones is probably not going to throw for more than 1 or 2 touchdowns, and
against Houston.
Yeah, Mac Jones. I mean what you're looking at is definitely right to take, but Mac Jones isn't. He's still a rookie, which Trey Lance is of course, but he's very conservative quarterback, very very conservative, and they don't allow him to that playbook isn't open to him until he starts developing more each week. So
yeah, but that was a bitter loss last week. You don't think that Belichick might just hey, have at it, just I mean
not Belichick. No.
I'm going to completely change the way I coach because of the way we lost last week.
And because you're facing, this is a team that you're facing that is actually no threat. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, if it was somebody else other than the team that we all figured to be on the bottom of the barrel, maybe different, but I'm sure that this is sticking in his craw. And whether maybe he took it out on the players during practice this week. Or does he take it out on the team that's coming up? I mean, I'm just kind of thinking here,
he's probably going to do both.
Right. It's not either or.
But yeah, Mac Jones is just too conservative.
Okay.
So I would go Trey Lance, just because the ceiling is higher than Mac Jones.
Okay. I just want to know because I'm going to ask you again in this next question because Justin Fields, Trey Lawrence, or Jones. But you can just think about that while we get Bill's pick here.
Okay. For which game?
We're talking about New England at Houston.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. So I mentioned there's a couple of teams, unless they're playing each other, I'm not picking them to win any more games. So until it's Houston versus Jacksonville, I'm picking everybody to beat Jacksonville.
No, it's you. Okay, so you're picking everybody to beat Houston. We're talking.
I mean, that's what I meant. Those two teams, unless they're playing each other, they don't have to figure out, in that situation. Yes, I'm picking everybody over Houston except Jacksonville. I'm picking everyone over Jacksonville except Houston until further notice.
Okay. This should be interesting for you, Bill, since you always talk about Derek Carr being out there on waivers. Chicago at the Raiders. And here's another revenge game. I know Gruden is kind of petty too. Now you're not going to tell me.
Oh, not kind of.
So you say that Belichick, isn't going to change, but Gruden will change. Just for revenge, just to make you look bad. Gruden, like I said, he might change his whole behind that loss. I'm not sure. I think we're going to see Chucky, but we'll see. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I am going to be picking the Raiders. The teams are sort of reverses of each other. We have one team that has the ability to make a tremendous amount of big plays on offense, almost seemingly at will at times, even against sometimes even fairly decent defenses. And another team that has terrific defense, but their offense, I mean, obviously with moving on to Justin Fields, you get more opportunities to make big plays, but he's still a rookie. And if this game becomes a shootout, which would be delightful for me, because I have, a few Raiders on my various and sundry. I don't know if I have any Bears, actually. I don't think I have a single Bear, now I think about it, on my various and sundry fantasy teams. But yeah, I do have a few Raiders. So yes, a shootout would suit me just fine. If this game does turn into a shootout, I definitely have to lean towards a team that has the more consistently functioning offense. If it turns into a 13-7 defensive struggle, then the Bears should win. They have the better defense, but I don't think it'll be that.
Go ahead, Mike. And remember what I was talking about, in a league where you would have Derek Carr, Justin Fields, and Trey Lawrence. Who are you starting here?
I would definitely start Carr over those two rookies in a second. I'm not really a Fields guy right now. I think Fields will develop into a good quarterback. He is just not right now. And then Trevor Lawrence, he's getting better by each game. But he's not at Carr's level at this point.
Okay, so now putting the three rookies together, Lawrence, Jones, and Fields.
I'll go Lawrence if we're just talking about short term. Lawrence should be long term as well, but short term for sure. Right now, Lawrence is, especially in fantasy, has more fantasy value than either of those other two quarterbacks.
Okay, give me a winner and the players.
So winner, I'm going to go the Raiders, and the players. Well, I would have normally said David Montgomery, but he's out. There's no. I can't recommend a single Bear right now. Nobody. Even Allen Robinson, he's like a wide receiver 58 right now, 58-60. It's just there's no one there. As far as the Raiders go, Derek Carr, and if you don't have one of the top five, Derek Carr, the running game, Josh Jacobs maybe. Yeah. But
is he available this week?
I think he is. He played last week, but so I think he's going to be available this week as well, unless that re-aggravated. I know he's like questionable or something.
Yeah.
But, and then wide receiver wise, Hunter Renfrow, and then tight end, of course, Darren Waller.
Now, I have a question there because I have Ruggs and Renfrow is available. Do I make the switch?
Yes.
But Ruggs is putting up the better numbers, fantasy-wise.
Is he?
Yes.
Let's see. I don't.
Sort of.
It's not that.
It depends upon to some extent scoring.
I think scoring
in a full point PPR. Renfro's outscoring Ruggs. It depends on what kind of league you play in.
But it's pretty close, right? It's like a matter of 2 points or something like that. It's not like Renfro's running away.
It's close. So Renfro is 23rd, wide receiver 23 at 58 and pretty much 59 points. And then Henry Ruggs is at 36 at 50 points. So we're talking 9-point difference in 4 games. So 2 points per game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So Cleveland at the Chargers. Starters and winner. Mike?
I'm going to go Chargers here. And starters, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Jared Cook, and Austin Eckler. As far as the Browns, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Yeah, Nick Chubb, that's the only starters for Cleveland. And yeah, as I said, Chargers win this game.
Go ahead, Bill, and then I want to come back to you, Mike. Go ahead.
So Chargers, Cleveland. I'm going Chargers. And was there another game?
No. Right now, I was only talking about Chargers, Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask about with the McCaffrey out, Chuba or Kareem Hunt?
I think you still go Kareem Hunt. Just that ground game is just so vital. I don't know what Chuba Hubbard's going to even do, even in the most excellent matchups. And the Panthers defense is he plays for Panthers. Never mind. Eagles defense. That's a good matchup, but I just don't trust Chuba Hubbard. So I would go Kareem Hunt because I feel more secure with that as far as a player. Kareem Hunt.
Okay. Let's see. Bill, the Giants at Dallas.
Dallas is the pick for me. And there's a few players that would be fantasy starters, I would imagine. But yeah, I'll let Mike handle that. But there should be a pretty fantasy, enriched kind of game.
What do you think?
Yeah. As far as Dallas goes, I'm going to go with Cowboys in this matchup, and then Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Those are the guys there. Dalton Schultz, who's been remarkable. I don't see why you wouldn't put him in there, unless you have, of course, one of the top 5 tight ends. And then the Giants. It's interesting to see what their wide receivers are doing. Last week, John Ross and Kadarius Toney had very good games, but I don't consider that as a consistent basis. Saquon Barkley, maybe Kenny Golladay. Saquon Barkley and Kenny Golladay. You could Saquon for sure. Kenny Golladay is someone that if you have someone better, then go with it. But if not, then he's at least a flex option.
San Francisco at Arizona. We just mentioned Trey Lawrence will be starting, but Kyler Murray, man.
Yeah, Kyler Murray.
So your thoughts here? Who do we start and who wins it?
So I'm going to go Cardinals here and start, as you mentioned, Kyler Murray, running back Chase Edmonds, and then AJ Green is doing well, Christian Kirk, and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins hopefully gets healthy soon. He's battling an injury, and it's just not helped his numbers at all. Plus, they're splitting it among all the other guys. And then San Francisco, you can start Deebo Samuel. If George Kittle plays, you start George Kittle. but that's probably it. I don't. Trey Sermon should be the only running back there, but I don't know how much they're going to be using him. So the ones I feel secure about is George Kittle if he plays and Deebo Samuel.
Bill, your winner.
Of the 49ers in Arizona?
Yeah.
Arizona. They're the better team. Even if the 49ers were healthier, I would probably still be picking them. But with the 49ers dealing with, their annual spate of injuries, I'm going to definitely pick Arizona. Arizona's got some people out, as was mentioned, DeAndre. But DeAndre Hopkins plays a position where they are pretty darn deep. So I'm not too worried about him, though he's obviously would be the lead dog. The other dogs in that pack are all pretty vicious and difficult to cover.
This is another interesting, and I might be wrong here, Mike. You can tell me. DeAndre Hopkins is the lead dog, but he's not the leading fantasy scorer.
No, not right now. He's doing a lot of
he's doing a lot of the grunt work.
Right. He's very much someone who runs like three or 4 yards out pattern and then gets a touchdown. But because he's dealing with the injury, it's even harder for him to do those things. So
he's dealing with a bunch of talented wide receivers that are going to be used to getting the ball even when he gets healthy.
Say that again for me.
I said, and you're dealing with a bunch of Arizona receivers that are used to getting the ball, because Kyler spreads the ball around.
Exactly.
I mean, not just due to injury, but
Yes,
so,
that definitely has a factor as well, for sure. Even Rondale Moore, the rookie there, has gotten some looks, not in the last 2 weeks, but has definitely played a factor. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They're definitely spreading that ball around.
Bill, of course, we talked a little bit about this earlier when we were talking about the matchups between the wide receivers and Kansas City secondary there. So Buffalo against Kansas City. That's the Sunday night game.
Yeah, and it'll be a really good game. And I think it'll be once again, a bounce back, get right. That's the team I thought I'd be seeing game for the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs defense will play better than they have this entire season. Not that it's going to be, a slog fest. It's still going to be a fair amount of scoring on both sides. Don't get me wrong. But their defense at its best wasn't, once again, like I said, the 85 Bears or the 99 Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the 2001 Ravens anyway. They were still a defense that gave up a lot of yards but would make 2 or 3 big plays. A strip sack here, an interception there. And I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see them give up a lot of yards, even a fair number of points, but get their offense a couple extra possessions through, Sorensen gets a tip ball interception. He's coming on a safety blitz, realizes he can't get there and jumps up, bats a ball up that ends up being, either returned for a touchdown or into the red zone. A strip sack by Chris Jones or somebody that, blunts a drive by the Bills and turns to score for Kansas City, that kind of thing. And I think that Kansas City's offense, even though the Bills are not terrible on defense, don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to find those weaknesses and exploit them until they make you change your game plan. And then once you're now going with your plan B, well, the plan B is plan B for a reason because it's not as good as plan A. And I just think it's going to be, once again, a shootout, but I think that it's a, not blowout, but I think a convincing victory for the Chiefs.
Go ahead, Mike. Final game. Let us know. After that, Bill took a beating week 1 from the Steelers, but the last 3 weeks, Bill's been on a roll, man. I mean, can that Kansas City defense stop him? And Josh Allen's been playing very high caliber too. So, what's your predictions here and starters?
Starters are definitely Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and especially Emmanuel Sanders. Dawson Knox has been really good at the tight end position as well. Kansas City, the trio, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. As far as the winner goes, Chiefs has just not been a very good team. I'm going to go Buffalo in this game, even though they're playing in Kansas City. But it should be a fun shootout. I think a lot of points are going to be scored, and so I'm excited about that one.
All right, guys. Well, hey, another Saturday has passed, and good talking with you guys. Too bad Demetrius wasn't here today, but he unfortunately has had a family tragedy, and he will be back as soon as possible. So, final thoughts, guys, before we leave the air. Bill?
So my final thoughts are directed to, there have been some people who, I mean, I understand criticizing players, but at the pro level, I generally understand it to some extent. This is a profession. People are being paid by, the teams and indirectly by the fans, I guess you could say, through, fans watching TV, which leads to the TV contract and buying tickets and buying jerseys. And now, with name, image, and likeness, this is, I don't know if that's part of it, but people have taken to being even more critical of student athletes to the point of telling people to kill themselves and all kinds of crazy stuff. And of course, obviously, this stuff goes on online. These people don't have that kind of crazy bravery to do it in person, right? They're not saying this to players that can see them and can get at them. No, they're always doing this online, and the people talk about keyboard warriors or whatever. And I just remind people that these are college students who have essentially a job that is essentially a full-time job, and they aren't paid directly by their employer for the job, right? Now, if they are hustlers enough and marketable enough, they can round up name, image, and likeness deals, right? But that's not something that the school is doing, right? The school isn't doing that. The school isn't saying, some schools are at least giving them classes or giving them instruction on here's how you should handle this, or here's a way you can, but not every school is doing that. Some schools are just, hey, good luck to you, right? Do what you can with that. And to go beyond saying, hey, you played poorly, right? I mean, it's okay to point that out. If you think someone played poorly, you can say they played poorly. I'm not saying you can't be critical, but to demean, insult, and threaten a young person who is trying to get their education and play a sport simultaneously, which is far harder than most people realize unless they've tried doing it. And even if you're doing it at a fairly low level, like I did, it's difficult. If you're doing it at a very high level, like the people that, mostly are getting these ludicrous criticisms, I wish people could go through a day in their lives so they could understand what it's like being a high-level athlete at a big program. And though people like to make jokes about people taking their classes for them, whatever, and there have been times where there's been definitely, some improper things that have gone on. But for the most part, even though some of them are getting academic help, they're not doing their work for them. For the most part, these people are doing their own assignments. They're meeting with tutors. They're going to study halls. They're going to classes. They are preparing mentally and physically to play a sport. They're traveling. They're turning in papers from hotel rooms and airplane waiting rooms and all kinds of things so that they can partially to entertain you, right, the viewer. Also, in some cases, a few of them, a very small percentage of them will play professionally. But even at the biggest schools you think of, the vast majority of those players are not going to be professionals. So I just wish people would try to have a little bit of perspective. I'm not saying you can't criticize. I'm saying insulting, demeaning, and threatening, that's just wrong and stupid.
Yep.
That's my home.
All the things we used to do when I was in school. But anyway, that's a different whole different generation. I don't know if you could have given that same speech to Jack Tatum or George Atkinson. But anyway,
God,
Well,
but
people weren't emboldened to tell Jack Tatum or George Atkinson to go kill themselves.
Right.
Oh well, but that was also through the intimidation of those
Right.
particular people.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with that part, but I'm just saying that unfortunately.
I would have loved, and I lived in the Pittsburgh area. I would have loved to see somebody go up to George Atkinson and tell him to go kill himself.
It would not have worked out for the
It would
person.
not have worked out very well at all.
Right. It would not have worked out.
Dr. Death would definitely have come out.
Mike, your final thoughts for the day, man.
I think accountability. We've had two coaches this week come out that have lacked zero accountability. We sort of touched on Urban Meyer's situation, where he abandoned the team basically to go to this function and do whatever he was doing, which was completely wrong. But whether it was cheating or not, that's up to him and his wife. But what it is definitely a lack of accountability to himself and his team, especially when you have a quarterback who is you want as the face of your franchise, and his head coach decides, I'm not going to stay on the plane with you guys on this traveling. I'm going to go to this function and go do this. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence is wise enough and not as impressionable enough to take an effect of what Urban Meyer has done. This guy has a track record of just horrible things, whether it's hiring assistant coaches or weight trainers that are outwardly racist, to hiring coaches and stuff and he's willing to cover up domestic violence disputes. He is not a good guy, and someone that is shown over and over again a lack of accountability, which transfers to the players that he coaches. And I think that's one of the reasons why the locker room is sort of, I mean, we don't know really what's going on in the locker room, but what's been reported, I believe, just because when you have him doing these things and these players know that he's doing these things over and over and over again, you lose faith. The leader has lost the team. And I don't know why he still has a job. I would have fired him if I was Rashad, or I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Shad Khan has not fired him, and I can tell you there's several million reasons why he hasn't.
Oh, what do you mean by several?
The contract.
So the way his contract is written, if he resigns, you don't have to pay it out. But if you fire him, you've got to pay out the next few years of his contract at 100%, and then the last couple of years at a reduced percentage.
Oh, geez. What?
Yep.
No, the contract shouldn't have been in there in the first place, knowing all that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're not going to waste money like that. Unfortunately, probably the locker room is going to be in upheaval for the rest of the season. And then we have John Gruden making that letter, that email, and then saying, well, I didn't know these words were offensive. I didn't know these. And it's just like, are you serious? Like, who doesn't know these things? It's like, just take accountability. Say, yeah, I was upset, or I shouldn't have done it. I was in whatever, or yeah, I was a total racist in this situation. Just be accountable with what you're doing. And then let everybody else decide on what's your true heart inside your true heart. And I don't know what's inside Gruden's heart. I know that part of him is definitely racist, and something that you're just like, I mean, I would never, I know myself, I would never, ever, ever, no matter how angry I was at any person of color or whatever the situation was, would ever go to those kind of depths. But he did. And then he shuffles it off. It's like it's nothing. And again, accountability. And you have people who follow your lead. And when you're accountable, then you fail as a leader. Hopefully these two people get it in line and become what they're hired to do. Other than that, then it's just going to fall apart from top to bottom.
Hey, well, thank you guys for joining me on Saturday, man. Hope to see you next week, and have a good football weekend. And I'm going to be looking at these fantasy things. Boy, Mike, once again, AJ Brown, man. You advised me again.
Michael, I hope I'm not going to be eating crow next week.
Look,
all right,
if you start AJ Brown enough times in a row, eventually,
or the crow will be eaten and there'll be nothing left on the plate. One and two is going to happen.
It was a flock of crows instead of a game of thorns. All right. Hey, have a good weekend, guys. Hope you guys.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Hey, and don't forget, man, we got baseball going this weekend, man. So hey,
go Giants.
Hey, go Giants. We got the White Sox playing. We had some good games last night. So hey, if you guys are into baseball, man, hey, baseball, college football, professional football, postseason, preseason basketball.
That's true.
Hey, everything is up and running. And if you want, and if you know anything about the pitch, I think that's working too, isn't it?
The which what is
soccer?
Pitch? Oh, the pitch. Well, I know they're doing trial for the World Cup. I know they're doing that thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Great sports weekend. Talk to you guys next week.
Thank you, gentlemen.
See you soon.
Take care.
Okay.